Dachau concentration camp, 1945. Chapter 29. The day after I got to Dachau, the man next to me in my bunk got the camp fever. Camp fever was what everyone called the typhus that spread like fire throughout the ranks of prisoners. It started with a headache and a fever, then became a cough. My bunkmate got a spotty rash on his chest, and soon he was so delirious he couldn't speak or understand a word I said to him. The Nazis did nothing to treat him, or any of the other prisoners who got the camp fever. The man from my bunk died 3 days later, coughing up blood. Prisoners died by the hundreds every day. I always tried finding somewhere else to sleep, away from the sick, but it was almost impossible. More than 1,500 prisoners were crammed into barracks built to house 250 prisoners. It was a wonder we didn't all have typhus within a week the way we had to sleep on top of one another. Each day I woke up expecting to be sick, and it seemed like a miracle when I went to bed that night, spared. At least the Nazis didn't expect the sick to work too. They didn't make any of us work at Dachau. Prisoners had once worked here, like all the other camps, but not now. Dachau was in chaos. Some days we didn't even have roll call. The war was coming to an end, and we all knew it, even the Nazis. Like we had guessed, the Germans had been moving us around to avoid the approaching Allied attack. Even so, the chimneys still burned day and night. Day and night. One night, early in the spring, we woke in the barracks to the sound of explosions nearby. They were so close, they were deafening. A building in the compound exploded, shaking our barrack, and I covered my head with my hands, just like all the prisoners around me. There was no place to go, no place to hide. The war had come to Dachau, and any moment a shell or a bomb might fall on our building and kill us all. So many times I had wished for a bomb to fall on me, to end my suffering. But now I prayed that no bomb would hit me. Not now. Not when I was so close to the end. If I could survive only a little longer, I thought. Just a little longer. Planes roared overhead for hours. Bullets fired. Pop, 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 pop. From inside or outside the camp, I didn't know. The heavy pum, pum, pum of artillery shook our wooden beds, and the dust and dirt of 7 years rained down on us from the roof. I heard Nazis shouting to one another in German. More gunshots, more bombs exploding. But I kept my head down, like the rest of the prisoners, whispering to death, pleading for it to pass me by yet again. Then, close to dawn, the shooting and explosions stopped. I felt a rush of relief at the silence. The bullets and bombs might come again another day, but for now, we were alive. Used to the sounds of war coming and going, we went back to sleep. There might be a roll call in the morning, and we would need all the rest we could get. But come morning, something was different. For one thing, no capo had come around to wake us up. I woke only because my body told me it was the time. As everyone stirred in their sleeping shelves, we looked around at one another, wondering where our jailers were. One of the prisoners crept to the door and peeked outside. There aren't any guards, he told us. I don't see any guards. What trick was this? I didn't believe it. Slowly we all climbed down from our shelves and looked out the windows and doors. The man was right. There wasn't a capo or an SS officer to be seen. Prisoners staggered out of each of the barracks, looking this way and that, waiting for the Nazis to jump out and start shooting us. But the camp was empty. The Nazis had fled in the night. I staggered into the yard, but there I stood. I didn't know what to do. None of us did. For so many years, we had only done what we were told. That was the only way to survive. Now I was on my own. I could walk right up to the front gates of the camp and walk away. But where would I go? What would I do? My home was in Krakow, hundreds of kilometers away. And what was home anymore? I had no family to go back to. No apartment that still belonged to me. I had no possessions or belongings, and even if I tried to go back, who would help me get there? Who would give me real clothes? Who would feed me? Who would be a friend to me? A Jew, when no one had stood up for me to begin with. The grim reality set in. We were free, but we were still Jews in a land that hated us, that had stolen everything we owned, and had taken our families, and put us in camps, and gassed us, and cremated our bodies. "Soldiers!" someone at the front gates cried. "Soldiers are coming!" I steeled myself. So this was it then. The Nazi army would kill us all, gun us down, and leave us for dead before the war ended. The extermination of the Jews was unfinished business. Some people ran for the barracks, as if to hide, but most of them, like me, stood in the yard and waited for what was to come. The gates opened, and soldiers marched into the yard. But the soldiers weren't wearing gray and brown. They were wearing green. Their helmets looked different from the SS helmets, too. And the tank that followed them, the tank had an American flag on it. "It's the Americans!" I cried, feeling something close to joy for the first time since I could remember. "The Americans are coming! The Americans!" The Allies had reached us at last. Some prisoners hurried up to the American soldiers to shake their hands. Some hugged one another. Some gave prayers of thanks. I fell to my knees and wept. Had I really made it? Had I actually survived the Krakow ghetto and 10 different concentration camps? I had been 10 when the war started. Now I was 16. For more than 6 years, I had been a prisoner of the Nazis. Prisoner B3087. Now, it was all over. An American soldier hurried to help me up and asked me something in English I didn't understand. He tried again in German. "What's your name?" he asked me. "Janek," I told him. "My name is Janek." "Everything's going to be all right now, Janek," he told me. And for the first time in 6 years, I believed he was right.